Hello, everyone, and good evening, and welcome to Prem Connection, where we like to listen to stories, real stories about how people connected, or how people are trying to connect, or how they even disconnected. But we're not going to get there today. First, we're going to begin our show by welcoming Auntie Kamal. Hi, Auntie Kamal. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Auntie Renu. How are you?
Good. Are you on the beach somewhere?
Oh yeah, Hawaii.
Why? Okay. And then, of course, we have Auntie Sheena. She doesn't want to be called Auntie Sheena.
I'm not an auntie. I'm only a Maxi.
You are to your two nieces and nephews. So.
Yeah, Sheena, that's right. And then, of course, today Sheena has brought two of her friends because they're going to be sharing their story with us. So, Sheena, go ahead and do the introduction of your buddies.
So this is one of my favorite couples that I know, and I'm very honored to have them on the show today. Karishma and Kunal, welcome to
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're very happy to be here.
Thank you.
Great. Well, you know, Karishma, it's typical of aunties. We just like to be so nosy. We have to know everybody's juice, right?
Oh, so, I love aunties. I love them.
You love us,
I work with a lot of them, so I love them.
Good.
So, we're with Prem Connection, one of the big things we hear is, for example, I have a young lady right now that we wanted to introduce her to somebody just in the same country, but just in another state. And she didn't want that. She was like, no, I want to have someone local. So we heard that you didn't even forget the state. You fell in love across the oceans. So we need to hear this story. So who's going to tell us what really happened?
I'll start. I'm a good storyteller, so I'll start.
Okay.
I'll listen just to make sure it's correct.
A good listener?
He is a listener. So a little bit about me. I'm Karishma. This is my husband, Kunal. I'm a jewelry designer. I have a fine jewelry business. I have a store in San Francisco. So that's what I do for a living. And Kunal is in the hotel business.
Yes, our family is in the hotel business. We started about in the 1970s. My grandfather came to America from India and started, bought his first motel and kind of grew the empire.
So
and now we're running it.
The second, third generation here, but I actually grew up in Japan. So that's where I grew up, and I went here for college. When I turned 18, I moved. Sheena and I went to the same college, California State University. And we're in the same Gujarati community. So I had met Kunal then, but we were just acquaintances. So I used to bump into him at, when we used to go out at bars, and he's always partying. So every time I would go party once in a while, that is, I would see this guy. And
he was here. He was already here in the Bay Area.
He was already here, yeah. He's born and raised here.
In San Francisco.
And I was here from Japan, so I was an international student here.
Well, let me ask you. You said you used to bump into him at parties when you used to occasionally go to parties.
Yeah, I occasionally. I wasn't a big party person like him compared to him.
I would say every weekend.
He was out every weekend. So every time that once a month I used to go out, I would bump into him and I'd be like, oh, hi, Kunal, and I was really good friends with his sister. So that was always like, oh, Bayo's brother. He's there again. Right. So I always, used to bump into him. He's older than me. So his friend circle was a little bit older. So we were just acquaintances. We'd say hi, hello. And, talk as such. And then after I was done with college, my parents moved from Tokyo to Mumbai while I was in college. So while I was done with college, I was like, I didn't want to stay here. We've moved around. My intention was never to stay back. I was like, oh, Bombay sounds amazing. So I moved there to spend some time with my parents.
And yes, if I'm not mistaken, I met you in Bombay too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I came to visit you and your sister, and I remember that. And Sheena was in town as well. Yeah. So I moved back to Bombay, and I got into the jewelry business, and I started testing out my designs. After a year and a half, for the first time, I came back here, and that's when Bayo must have told my family friends, somehow we were set up to go on a date that time. And they're like, Kunal is single, Karishma is single. Why don't they go on a date? And I was 24 back then, and this guy was 30, so he was ready to get married. So that was completely new to me. But you know, with a lot of my mom's like, why not him? Why don't you want to go on a date with him? And I'm like, I already know him. He's a friend of ours. And it's just really weird. But you know how parents are, aunties are. They're like, no, you got to go on a date, find out. So I was like, okay, on one condition. I don't want it to be awkward because he's my friend's brother. If it doesn't work out, let's like, you know, do like a group group outing, but he calls it a group date. It wasn't a group date. And I call it a group outing. So it was me, him, his sister, then one of you know, my friends. So some 10 of us went on this like little thing to Benihana's. And he was like, why did you want all these people to come here? And I'm like, I just don't want it to be awkward just in case it doesn't work out. And mind you not, you know, I was supposed to leave 2 days after meeting this guy. I was supposed to fly to London to go see a friend. I'd planned my trip in such a way. I was going to fly via London back to India. So we went on a date and on a group date. And after that, you know, we kind of liked each other's company. So he's like, do you want to go on a second date? So I had to call up my friend and I'm like, I can't make it to London. You know, she was already going to go with her friends. And I was like, I can't make it to London because I met a boy.
It means you really liked him. You wanted to cancel the London program.
Yeah, I know. So I canceled my London trip. I still haven't been to London. So he owes me a trip to London. But at some point, we'll make it out there. So we went on a second date to a restaurant in San Francisco. We went on a third date. I just could extend a week. I couldn't extend so much. And then I flew to India.
So give me a second. So Kunal, so far what's being said, so did you like her before you'd gone on a date? Because most guys don't like to be set up. So I'm curious.
I don't like to be set up, but the fact that we knew each other helped a lot. So we knew each other quite well. We had good conversations back in the college days. But yeah, it did feel kind of weird because we were friends. And we would just never think we would take it the next level.
Yeah.
So being set up in a sense, you know, back then I did find her. She was attractive. She was still is.
Thank you for correcting that, Sheena.
But yeah, but you know, growing up, I just knew that her personality was great. So the fact that my sister brought her name up, I was excited and I was willing to, you know, go on that date and see what things kind of
like, okay, give her a chance.
Just to kind of see how things hit off, and it worked out well.
Yeah. It was, so we had conversation, but it wasn't deep conversations. You know how you just run into a friend and like, oh, hey, how are you? And it was like, I never knew anything about like Kunal. I knew like, okay, this is Payal's brother. So it was in that sense. And then I moved to India. So, you know, we had to kind of just carry this relationship on. I was all the way crossing. It's not like, oh, let me go see him like in 2-3 weeks. No. So we were like, okay, let's see where this goes. So we were talking over the phone once in like, you know, 3 days or so, getting to know each other. You know, that's kind of how it started. I met him in July of 2015. And then I went back to India and, you know, we kept on talking over the phone, it's hard to connect over the phone. But after some time, when you get to know each other more, then you kind of eventually want to see each other in person. So I came back in December time. As like, you know, okay, maybe I could do some work and I could like spend some more time with Kunal. And this time my parents weren't here. So, yeah, I came back in December time and we got to know each other a little bit more. I think that was the time when we actually started to go on a lot more dates. And I was only here for 3 weeks. And then I went back home. So it was very back and forth. But most of the part of the relationship was like just kind of away and over the phone. And
but within, like, I guess within that year span of us getting to know each other, we did go on several trips. Which is kind of nice. So we even went to India, remember the hills?
Oh no, I'm getting to that. So I went back home in December.
I'm trying to understand because you know how young kids have this, we're just talking, there's just the talking phase.
Yeah, so we were in the talking phase.
Dating is not allowed in our culture. Huh?
In my time, you talking to a boy, either you'd get the jutta for talking to him, or
Right.
you better be getting married to him, you know. So when did
No,
you
it was
guys—
good, but good thing. So I guess both of our parents were not super traditional, so it was kind of nice. They're a little bit more lenient.
Yeah, but
You know,
when did
they
you
kind of
know?
know.
When did you know it's more than talking?
So I went back home after December. I went back home of 2015. This is still, and then 2016 came by, and he was working for a company in like sometime in February of 2016. We're on to next year now, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna come visit you in India," and I was like, "Oh, okay." That means when he comes to India, he's gonna see my parents, he's gonna meet my parents, and that's like the end of it. I'm sure my dad's gonna be like, okay, now like he went there, he's here, like what do you guys want to do? So he, decided to quit his job, join his family business. So he had a little bit of break between he did that transition. So he came to see me in Bombay with my parents, and he met my parents. And I actually planned a trip to the hills. So we actually flew to Chandigarh, and it's a 10-hour drive from there. Mm-hmm. So I took him to a remote place where there was no like, movie theaters or bars. It's like just me and him, because I knew this was the end of it. Like I knew I had to make this decision, and I was 24 at that time. So that was like still early for like my friends, at least this generation, I would say. So
that became Chandigarh Jab We Met.
Jab We Met, yes. And it was actually closer to Manali that we went, and it's like a 10-hour drive from Chandigarh to Manali. So that's what we did, and we did this adventurous backpacking trip, and I got to know him. I got to know him as a person. It was not like fancy hotels or anything. There was no like restaurants or anything. So we really just got to know each other, and it was really nice. And then we came back home to my parents, and, he met my grandparents and everything. And then he went back home, and my dad, obviously knowing this, he was like, okay, what's going on?
I remember this part. So this was the time I went to India. It was during her birthday. So right when we got back from our trip up north, we were celebrating her birthday, cutting her cake, and then her dad pulled me to the side saying, this is the best time for you to propose. What do you think? Mm-hmm. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, Uncle, hold on 1 second. I haven't even consulted with my parents yet. I can't just pop this question. So
like, pull the trigger. And I was like, I can't believe my dad did that.
Yeah, you put me in a pretty awkward position, but I guess it felt kind of nice because he liked me, and getting his blessings is very important.
Didn't they ask you when you're going to India that you're going to meet this girl? I mean, what are your intentions?
Well, no. We knew each other here back in the US.
No.
Yeah, but if I bet I was going to India.
Oh yeah, my parents. They probably got it.
Story here.
Kunal was ready. I think he was ready. I think he already told his parents, like after that December trip, that okay, I like Karishma. But I was the one a little bit hesitant because I'm like still new. I was like one of the first girls to get married. I was still 24, so I felt like I needed some more time. Mm-hmm. So I think it was on my end, and he told me I'm ready, and like I'm ready to marry you. And so when my dad asked me, like, are you like, what do you want to do? Like, are you gonna marry this guy? Like, so I told my dad. So I talked to him. I was like, my dad's like really pressurizing me now, or asking me like what I want to do, and he told me he's ready. And I was like, really? You're ready? And
but when I say I'm ready, it was nothing like forced. I'm like, you obviously. I think the best thing to do is date someone. Get to know that person, because before you make this, it's a very important decision, right? So you want to make sure you have the right person. So it's good to travel while you're talking, and you can know their ups and downs. That's very important to know before you get into marriage.
Because I couldn't see him every weekend. I couldn't see him every 2 weeks. Like, so I did this trip, and that was my time to actually spend some good quality time with him before I make this decision. And then that April was my birthday. I told my dad, I like this guy. That June we were engaged. That December we were married.
So nothing
it
wrong
all
with
happened so fast.
A year and a half, right?
Yeah.
We talked for 9 months, but as soon as we said yes, 2 months, 3 months, like everything was done in that 1 year. Because I know when it gets to the aunties and uncles, as soon as you tell them yes, it's like fast. Chalo, come on, let's do it. So that's how.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you: did you feel that being in a different country, was a challenge to get to know him, or did it help the fact that you knew him from before?
both, I would say, but I knew him, but I didn't know him because I knew him, like I said, we were acquaintances. So we went on a few dates. So I think that helped a little bit too, that on and off we got to see each other. But it was definitely really hard, especially because of the time difference between India and here. You know, and the daytime there, it's nighttime here, and nighttime here is daytime there. So we really just kind of like, we couldn't talk every day. So it was every like 2-3 days. So we tried to like, you know, obviously make it work. So I would say, yes, it's a little bit difficult, but I think you have to just really mentally be ready with what you are, you know, what you are kind of playing with or working with. And I think both of us were just kind of ready to get to know each other, give it a chance, and we were on the same page. So it's not like we had to talk every day or anything like that, but the time that we talked, we actually got to know each other. And they were, you know, very meaningful conversations, and, you know, trying our best to, you know, pretend like, you know, he's right next to me, or it's, you know, it's definitely hard, but yeah, we made it happen. Here we are 4 years later.
Can I ask you, when you were trying to, you know, figure it all out, what were the main questions in your head that were swirling that, you know, were of, you know, that you needed answers for?
I mean, with anything that you do, and, you know, you're just like, is this the right decision? You know, and for me, it was moving from India to America. I know a lot of people in India like want to come to America and have this lifestyle. For me, that was never a thing. I never wanted to come here. Like, I would have been way more happier in Bombay. I would have, like, you know, had, you know, the luxury style of Bombay, as you must know, since we met. So I was open to like moving to Bombay, or like, you know, moving to Hong Kong, like another city, or I was never like America. So America is like just way too far. You know, if it was Hong Kong, it's still 5 hours away. If it was like, you know, Bangkok or like somewhere just like closer. So it was really kind of that. I think that one thing that I'm not going to, it's too far. I think that's what I was going through my head, that I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Like, you know, this is like a huge step, moving so far. So I think that's what was going on in my head, that if it doesn't work out, I'm all the way in America and my parents are all the way in India, and they're still in India. My parents live in India.
You got a lot of family members here too, which is nice.
I do, but it's not like your mom and dad, you know, it's not like your sister, it's not like your parents. And it's nice to have family friends, but there's nobody like your parents.
So I do have a question for you as well. I know that your engagement was here in the Bay Area, and then your wedding was in India. How was the planning? Kunal wasn't in India, and you were not here. So
yeah, so I think our engagement, which you came to, Sheena, our engagement, Kunal planned everything. He was very hands-on with everything, and, you know, he took care of a lot of the stuff. They hosted us, so that was an easy part for me. But yes, you know, in that period that we got engaged, you know, I had to come back and like plan my wedding. So I had 3-4 months to plan this wedding. So I came back and I started kind of looking at the locations, and it was just mainly through like FaceTime, and it was we're going back and forth. And I told him, you need to come like at least a month, 2 months in advance, because it's really hard to plan a wedding. I can't do it on my own. So he did come like almost a month and a half or 2 months.
3 months.
No, it was 2 months.
Before a wedding?
Yeah, 2 months. You came in October. Sure? Yeah. So it was 2 months before the wedding. So by that time, I already had scouted the locations, you know, did like a little bit of work, as much as I could. And then he came in, and then we planned it together in that last 2 months. But I went and picked out my outfits, and, you know, picked out the location, did all the things that I could without him, and then picking the menu and things like that, more of detailed things, the nitty bitty things. We did that when he came into town. So yeah, it was definitely challenging, because I was like, that's when I was like, okay, you better come like 2 months in advance. I don't know how I'm going to do this on my own. But it was really.
I'm listening to you, and it's so different from the time mine and Kamal's time, where our parents arranged everything. We just showed up at our wedding.
Oh yes. Nowadays brides like to take over, you know. Nowadays brides, I don't know if you watch that new show on Netflix. I forget what it's called, but it's about weddings. And you really just like kind of see it. I wasn't that nitty picky about it. I wasn't like anything like the show, but brides really like to take control and like kind of take everything around.
I think when we planned it, it was half and half, which is kind of nice. We agreed on a lot of things, which was kind of easy.
It was hard. There was
easier process.
There was a lot of arguments too, like, because I wanted it a certain way and then he wanted it a certain way. So definitely along the way, we did have a lot of arguments. I think that planning a wedding is really crucial when two people are involved too, I realized, because then you want something else and then they want something else. So that was really challenging, if you remember. That whole phase was just very, very challenging.
Let me ask you, if you had not known Kunal before, if you had not known him, and your mom and dad had said, we have this young Patel boy that you need to meet, and from a perspective of marriage, and you knew you were going to be in India and he was going to be here, do you think you would have even entertained the idea of love across the borders and oceans, knowing that you were going to be in India? Had you not known?
Question, by the way.
Probably. I mean, I didn't want to entertain in the first place, you know, like when I was asked about Kunal a few times before, and I was just like, no, I'm not ready to get married. I don't want to like do this whole arranged marriage thing. You know, I don't want to do that. And, you know, I think it was after a lot of convincing from my parents, and, you know, they were trying to explain to me, and I'm like, okay, fine. You know what? Let me just give it a shot. But no, if it was somebody else, like if I didn't know that person at all, that would have been really, really tough for me. I don't think I would have at that age. Yeah, that's a little bit weird.
I agree with you on that one. It made it easier for her to decide because we kind of knew each other.
He had already seen some girls. Like he had already like gone in the pool of like, you know, arranged marriages and meeting girls, and he had a bio data and everything. I was still like 24 at that time. I didn't have any of that.
So
he was the first guy I met.
Bio data of yours.
I was supposed to make that bio data.
Yeah, I have it. I was like, can I see it? So he had his pictures.
When you got married and you moved here, what were your challenges as a married couple?
For me, like I went to college here, so it was really nice to have friends like Sheena. So I knew like I had friends here. But obviously just for any girl when they move into a new home, I lived with my in-laws for 2 years. Just when they move into a new home, it's like a new lifestyle. You have to adjust to it, you know, it takes time. I think the challenges, I would say, just kind of like being married was being a challenge itself, because you're not, you have to act a certain way. I felt like at that time, now I'm very comfortable, but at that time I felt like, okay, I have to act a certain way if I wanted to just go out with my girls, like, you know, on a trip, and that was really hard to do in the first year. But I think those were the challenges, is just to kind of figure out what I need to do, what's right, what I don't need to do. Am I like doing this right? I just don't want to like, you know, make anyone upset by doing this. So I think those were the kind of challenges I faced. And I think that's for every girl, that when they get married, and it's that like the first few months, you're just cautious.
Right. What about you, Kunal? What were your challenges?
Well, I mean, I was here. There was no challenges, but just living with someone every day. I wasn't used to that. When I was single, you can just do whatever you want. I play a lot of golf. When I was single, didn't need to get any permission to play. Now it's like every weekend I have to be like, Karishma, can I please? I'll do the dishes. I'll clean the whole house on Sunday if you can let me play golf on Saturday. So things like that have changed. I got to get permission. I don't have to get permission from my parents anymore. It has to be the wifey now.
But that's because I go on a lot of work trips, and you know, he gets to play his golf over the weekends while I'm on my work trips, so it works out now. But it was really hard to like work too, and like I was really concerned. I'm like, if I go travel so much, I don't know how he's gonna feel. I don't know how my in-laws are gonna feel. That was my initial concern, and they just thought how passionate I was about my work, and they were like, okay, just do your thing, and you know, do what you need to do.
That's what makes it easy when she's out doing her thing, traveling. It makes my life easy as well. Because it's good to have a little separation. Is what I'm saying. It's good to have a little separation. It's healthy.
Yeah. I think it's very important to have your own space. Very important.
Yes, of course. Because if we're both at the house every day, then we're gonna get on each other's nerves somehow. So it is nice because after she comes back, from a 1 week trip, it's like I miss her even more.
Yeah, it's very important to, I think, in marriage to create that space. I think it's very important.
So his is golfing. Is yours work or is yours something else, Karishma?
Mine's work. Mine's work. I love what I do.
Or hiking.
No, not too much. But if I want to get away with something, I really enjoy what I do. So for me, like going on work is like vacation. And I travel a lot. I go to Florida. I get to experience, new places. I get to meet new people, and I'm a very people person. I love meeting new people. So I love just doing what I do. So that's kind of like my escape. Or just sometimes like I have a lot of girlfriends, and I would go on a shopping trip over a weekend with them, like if I'm in town, or get together with them, which I don't get to do when I'm traveling. So that's another getaway, I would say.
So we have a few minutes before we wrap up. So my question is, we've had COVID now for this year, and so has that been a challenge in marriage to be stuck at home and not being able to go anywhere?
It has for me, because it has drastically changed, because I'm so used to traveling. So now I'm home all the time. And he's still doing his
I'm out and about.
Out and about. He's still like going to his hotels, and work has not stopped for him, but it had stopped for me for a little bit. So it was challenging for me in that terms. I like need to do something. I need to like work, or I need to be out there and like be doing something. So that has been a little bit of a challenge for me. But in terms of our relationship, like it's been the same. We haven't felt. Oh, he started baking, yes, and he started cleaning more.
Never in my life would I do that, but she loves my bake. She loves my cookies.
So maybe it's a good thing we got out of it, So we haven't faced any such challenges. But just as a couple, we do have arguments. I'm just gonna say, like, they're not perfect. We have a lot of arguments and breakdowns, and sometimes they're really bad. Sometimes they're like just normal fights. So that's totally normal. I think it's just that power to communicate and talk about it. Eventually, if not like 2 days, like 3 days later or something, just kind of talk about it and see like, okay, I did not like the way you did this because of this. So tell them your side of the story. And that's what I try to do that with Kunal. Like, hey, like I didn't like it. This is where I'm coming from. And I think it's communication is the key. Like I think that's the key to a relationship. So there has been times where we wouldn't talk to each other for 2 days, and I'd just like be mad at him. And
you learn baking.
Huh?
I said that's where you learn to bake.
Maybe. He goes and plays golf, and that's like his stress reliever. And then I'm stuck at home because I can't work, right? That was really challenging for me. But I think in any relationship, if you feel a certain way, don't feel obliged to not talk about it. I think you need to talk about it, no matter how like bad it is or whatever it is, how you feel. I think it's really important, but not to just like address it, but also address it and explain why you feel a certain way. So I think that's really important.
Past it and getting over it is also very important, equivalently.
Yeah. So I think that's what we have. Like, okay, we've talked about it. I understand your point of view. I understand my point of view. We come to middle grounds and like, okay, like let's just move on now. Because we have other things work-wise to worry about. So we don't want to like put all that stress over just like a relationship. It's just not healthy, So I think of it that way.
You gotta let go.
Yeah.
You can't dwell on it. You can't dwell on it. I'm very, very patient. So
he's very patient, which helps a lot. And I'm not patient. And I'm just like, I get anxiety when he's like, but he puts me, I guess we complement each other, and he puts me like, he gets me down, and he's like, calm down and let's,
What's your, I'm sure a lot of people are sitting in thinking, what's your birth sign, Kunal?
Oh, I don't even know.
September 12th?
Well, I'm Virgo.
Virgo, right?
Oh, you're a Virgo. Okay. And you, Karishma?
So I'm born on April 20th. So I'm a half cusp, I guess that's what they call it. So I'm a half Taurus and a half Aries.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So your closing message to anyone out there who's really hesitant about taking up an introduction across the oceans, across the states, what would you say to them?
I know it's overwhelming when you get introduced to somebody that's like across the country or across the state, but I think it's really important. It's just that whole idea in your head, but I think you need to just give it a chance. If you give it a chance, like if you just say, oh, this is not going to work, he's like, like, okay, like in another country, and that's just your state. But if you give it a chance, like, okay, get to know that person, maybe like, make that effort to text them, make that effort to call them. you never know. Like, it'll work out.
I agree with her, because I even have a lot of my friends who still are not married. Hopefully they're not. I don't know if they're watching, but the thing is, they're just they're scared about commitment. They're scared about long distance. Yeah. And I said, you got to let that go. The person can be an hour away, or the person can be thousands of miles away. It doesn't matter. As long as you guys talk, communicate, it can work out.
Yeah, you get comfortable then, you know, after you talk for some time, you know that person, and you get really, really comfortable with them. It's just time. I think time is the key. The more time you spend getting to know that person, I think each and every person is like amazing and beautiful in their own way. So if you just get like the chance, give them a chance to get to know you and you to know them, I think that's what it is. Just give it a chance.
And it can't all be phony. You gotta, both parties have to make an effort to meet up.
It doesn't have to be every day. It could be every 2-3 days, and that's totally fine. But the whole thing is just giving it a chance.
Yeah. Good.
Well, thank you so much. It's been so wonderful having both of you and catching up with both of you and listening to
you. Thank you.
And I hope that we will, you know, anytime somebody goes, I don't want to meet anyone from across, you know, and not living in the same state, I'm going to just send this clip to them and say, here, watch.
Yes.
Yeah. Not too bad.
Kamal?
So you have an amazing story, so keep it up.
Yeah, I love hearing your story. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys.
It was a lot of fun.
The next time we'll bring you back on, there'll be 3, 4, 2 more behind you.
Hopefully, yes.
That's the next person we got.
Listen, I'm an auntie. I had to say that, okay? I had to say that.
Of course, yes. I know.
It'll be exciting when that happens.
We're looking forward to it too. Let's put it that way.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming to Prem Connection, where 2 aunties double the advice. We'll be back next week. And of course, that's our co-host Sheena, who's always going to be bringing some amazing guests for us. And Auntie Kamal, always a pleasure to see you, even though you're sitting on the beach and I'm not. But we'll catch up next week.
Okay. Thank you, Renu. Have a great week.
Yes, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.